Namo tassa. So this video follows the previous one that was connected to that quote about being able to make a change in life in the sense of becoming aware of your mind as a regular human, mostly controlled by the kilesa, and making a conscious choice basically to go in the right direction and to become a better being and a wiser being. And the image that I associate with that is also one way described as between the dark and the light, between darkness and brightness. As I teach it very simply about the basics of Dhamma, just as I mentioned in the previous video before, like people say, you can sum up the teachings of all the Buddhas that way too. And it's again very simple. You refrain from doing evil, so you refrain from supporting or feeding the kilesas, which is the dark side, and you concentrate on developing, sustaining the good side, the good values of the mind, the good intentions, the positive, which is the bright side, which can be around basically the 4 Brahma Viharas, Metta, Karuna, Mudita, Upekkha, to become wiser, and with the help of wisdom, actually, with the help of Panya, Pinya. So, dark or bright? I think people, again, can objectively, one way or the other, see what's happening in the world. And does it look like the world is going in a better direction? Not really. And there is a reason for that. As I mentioned before, to a few people now know my side of double awareness. Again, I'm going astray a little bit from the main point of this video, but just a little touch on that. And because if someday some people are really interested to learn about that, or the awareness that I have about what's happening in the world, why things are like that in the world, and it goes with the history of the world and things that are happening, then there is that awareness of why the world in general is in that situation. And again, it's just a human world and human nature, and only because we know obviously and objectively that most humans are controlled by the kilesa, so they are controlled by the negative aspect of the mind and the dark side. And because it's the greatest majority, it's not even like a typical election results of 51-49 or something like this. No, it's 95% of humans are very controlled by the kilesas, then almost 5% actually are not so bad, but still, some ignorance, and then only very few are really, really, you could say the really good ones that way. And exactly the same as you can say, as you know, how many people become enlightened. Unfortunately, very, very few humans become enlightened. Even very few humans become Arya. Why? There is a reason for that, or different reasons, but some main factors. And of course, exactly because of that percentage, that explains logically why the world is going in a darker place. Like I explained in another video too about deeper Dharma teachings. Everything goes by cycles, of course, just like human civilizations. The human civilization, just like animal species, reign, you can say, for a while. Something appear, just like everything in life, just like every phenomena, just different scale of space and time, but always the same. Something appear, develops, reaches an apex, and then start to go down and down and down and down and disappear. Something in a very, very short time, billions of time per second. Some things have this evolution over millions or billions of years. But it's always the same. That's why it's the rule of existence, the rule of every phenomenon in the universe. And that's why there is impermanence, except that it's very different scale. And humans, with their ignorance and ego, they actually, yes, like to take themselves as the center of the universe. You know, they are the navel of the universe. And so they think that everything is compared to their own scale, and that's why they understand so little, and that's why science doesn't understand much yet. And even those supposedly high-level scientists with how many PhDs, whatever titles they have, they still don't understand much, because they still think in a very human-centered way of looking at things in the scale of time and space and all the rest that they're not aware of, all the other dimensions and factors. But also what I meant earlier is that then I have this awareness about what's going on in the world, exactly because my karma allowed me to have enough time to do research and look for many informations and cross information about everything, every topic, and I have the mind that enjoys learning objectively about things like this and gathering more and more information, which I think helps anybody. Not to clutter the mind, but just for the sake of proper knowledge, useful knowledge, and objectivity about everything. So, as I will go back to talking about dark and bright side, as far as categories of humans and minds, in general, and only because of that, again, simple rational fact that the majority of humans are controlled by kilesas, by the dark side of the mind, the moha, lobha, dosa, from avijja, then there is a majority of negativity, and this keeps accumulating and growing exponentially, actually, with time. So within those kind of people, there's always the one who have so much greed, so much hatred or need for power. So the lobha and dosa are very, very strong. This is the darkest humans, and the ones that I will explain later go from dark to dark or dark to darker. And these people have a strong motivation to want to control everything like this and to make everybody else, fall into that. And those are the people who control the world. So these are the very, very evil human beings. You can say the one who try to bring hell on earth, kind of that way. But that's again an unconscious phenomena. It's just the energy around because of the majority of humans supporting that, exactly because you see that the majority of people accept. They accept their governments, they accept their leaders being so wicked. They still just accept them. Why? Because they belong to that category still at a lower scale, but still they belong to that. Because their mind is still weak in the sense of being controlled by moral or badosa. So, in one way, they see what's happening, but they don't have the enough energy and motivation to do something about it because they relate to that inside at a different scale. But there are those very evil, dark human beings whose point is to take control of everything, everybody, and they are getting there more and more because they are reaching more and more the global scale now, and that's why they make the world the way it is, getting down and down and down. General karma of the world, of the humans, is going down. So as I meant before, with a deeper philosophy in Dhamma or Abhidhamma, with the cycles, then there is the 4-period thing, as Lady Sayadaw explained in one of his manuals of Dhamma. Everything, and it's the torus. In science, you can explain it with the torus equation. If you look at the torus, and I made a video about that shape of the thing that and recenter and cycled out and cycled in. So something develops and reaches a developed period, then apogea, like I meant, and then after it reaches a maximum, then it crumbles down and start to envelop, and then it reaches an enveloped stage, and get basically ends and regenerates again in something new or different. And that's, of course, again, you see the picture, it's everything. Again, everything in the universe works like that. That rules everything. As far as phenomena, every kind of phenomena. And humans, of course, are part of that. You are born and die, but reborn and die and born, unless you become Arahat, and then you're done. So, exactly because there are these kind of people in the world, and you can say as far as energy in general and the mind, like that. So there are the 4 kinds of people or mindset. First of all, to put it simply, so you have this kind going from dark to dark, or basically dark to darker. They can't help, it's just too strong that way. Then there are the people who are going actually from bright to darker, which unfortunately is because of karma, the very strong karma from before, and they still don't manage, they still don't have the right parameters to counterbalance that. Then there are the people who actually go from dark to bright, and that's actually a very very respectable category, because they have done the real work and they have really strived to exactly what I meant in the previous video too, to make the real change in their life, and they really try seriously, properly. And then there is the category of the people who go from bright to bright or bright to brighter, which is the people who have already achieved a lot before and have already the very, very good parameters. So then it's just moving on the same thread. Being careful not to fall in the trap of getting too complacent and let it drop again. But Usually that means they have already the wisdom to be good, to be aware that they are really good people and they know this is the way and the right way. So basically I'm talking about that last category first maybe, but yeah, in one way it's like that. It's and of course it could be the category of people who are meant to become arahats or the Buddhas. They have accumulated so many paramis very strongly, filled up all the paramis to perfection, and they are already very good being in life. You can recognize that everywhere, from school when you are young, from children who are very generous. They just want to be good, they just want to be positive, they just want to give love and be kind and like this. And so you can see they have almost no kilesa, they don't have loba either, they don't have greed and envy and jealousy of others. Rather they want to make others happy, they are kind, but not in a weak, like emotional way, but they just know it's the right way and they just want to do good consciously. Because right there also I don't want to mix up with the typical category, especially in North American culture, which is the worst that way, for what they call to have empathy or their own wrong notion of compassion. Yes, these people from bright to bright have very strong compassion. Of course, they have the four Brahma Viharas very strong already. But again, out of strong awareness, consciousness, not out of emotional need to try to compensate for something inside. It's just right there. It's their nature, as you can say, and that's it. So they are right there to do good in life and just keep doing it no matter what. And actually, again, being aware that way compared to the emotional ones, they have no problem to die for it, for doing good in the world. So they have this level of awareness, which is in one way the mindset that I'm talking about, that you need to reach Nibbana again. Just like my first post on my Facebook, the pinned post also on the TikTok. When some people tell me that they really want to work seriously on Dhamma and reach Nibbana, I will ask them in one way, how much are you ready to die right now for that? How much commitment do you have actually to your cause, to your choice? How much faith do you have, basically? And if you have that strong of a faith and commitment, yes, then that's a good sign. That should help you a lot. But again, if you do things just like other cultures in general, or especially the North American, out of emotional reaction and need, then it's not the same, and because it's not the same level of awareness and dedication actually. Anyway, so that was the last category actually of the bright to bright or bright to brighter. So opposite of that, there is the dark to darker people, as I mentioned before, and they are the one who are controlling the world in general now. They are controlling the banking system, they are controlling the corporations, and that's why they try to control the food system, the food industry, and the pharmaceutical industry, the medical industry, and what they call the modern psychology actually, exactly to make the majority of the human fit in that crazy, mad system. As I mentioned before, there's one very famous quote from Krishnamurti, for the ones who know, but I think it's one of the best quote ever, which says that it is no sign of health, mental health, to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. And that's actually how those very evil-minded people, as families, have funded those systems through some organized organizations actually, and foundations and creating how do you call it, curriculums or whatever, exactly that way. And what I mean about psychology, modern psychology, is actually meant not to make you really healthy as a really independent, free-minded person, really self-sustained, but to make you fit in that crazy, mad society, in the madness. So you just fit in the mohalo badosa, just that you fit in, and most of the time with a few pills that you need to take regularly, because that sustain their system and their business. So anyway, so those people are very evil, and of course they don't care about anything. So even though they basically are going to go down the realms, of course, for sure, in next existence, they're gonna probably, most of them, go down to the lower realms, from the hell realms or whatever. Or if they come back as beings, animals, they might be the kind of animals that will really suffer a lot, as we see in many situations. And then, I wanted to touch about one realm of existence, lower realm, also because actually a couple of people mentioned that to me, but again, it's another thing, especially in those Asian culture, Buddhist cultures, and exactly going back to the dark tools of those darker people is to create culture and cultural conditioning. Unfortunately, even if you pretend to be a Buddhist in a Buddhist culture, you don't realize that most of it is just you, very obedient sheep, repeating what you have been told since you were young. And because you were told like that since you were young, you think this is the truth and this is the way it is and this is the right way. But only because there is a system, organized system, that you call culture or nationality or religion, that tells you this is the way to think and this is the right way, and you just repeat blindly. And then exactly in the Buddhist culture, of course, they tell you about the ghost, for example, which is a lower realm, exactly a miserable realms. Those beings deserve, because of what they did in one way, because of the karma, to be wandering as ghosts. And then so many people tell me, oh, but I'm scared of the ghost or the spirits, like this. Two things. Exactly, because in the culture, especially like your parents also, because they know about that, they use it as a tool when you were a kid to scare you, And again, to confirm, because it's how it works, how you traumatize people, so especially when they are young, you influence them more easily that way, and on the long term. So they told you, yes, if you don't do this, if you don't do that, the ghosts are going to come and get you. The ghosts are going to do this and that. And then you get scared as a kid, and then you still get scared as an adult. Why? Because you have avijja, you have ignorance. And this is moha. I mean, ghosts are a realm, okay, but the ghosts are not dangerous that way. They're not going to kill you directly. But what they do, because they're miserable and they are lost like this and wandering around, they are there to scare you, exactly like you see in movies. And so if you are, because of your culture, and you have been brainwashed that way, you can be potentially scared and afraid of ghosts. So of course, if you are potentially afraid, then they can affect you easily. And in one way, they will be happy to scare you. And that's what they want to do, to make you miserable like they are. Because they have these lower values, right? The dark values of like that, and jealousy and envy because they cannot be backed as human to progress or to become wiser. But this is just how it works. And because you have the conditioning from your culture to tell you to be afraid of ghosts, then you become a very easily afraid person. Then you become superstitious, and that's why you believe easily in things like this, and you become easily afraid. But if you understand that, and ghosts are just those miserable entities in a miserable realm, and that's why they just want to scare people, then and just you leave it at that with sati and upeka, then it's fine. It's just their problem, it's not your problem. But if you want to be superstitious and you are prone to be scared easily, then of course your mind will get very active in that direction, into imagining easily. Most of the time you will just imagine, as again, too busy mind, imagine the ghost, maybe there are ghosts, oh, I don't dare to close my eyes, maybe ghosts will come around, and no, I mean, this is again how moha, the mind too much thinking, too much active, overthinking, and making up stories, moha, avijja, moha. So let the ghost deal with their own things and their own misery in their own realm. Focus on your practice. And as I explained to that one person also, exactly like that. You understand, when the Buddha was meditating to become enlightened, of course there was Mara, I forget the name in Myanmar language, but it's the devil, the big devil Mara, was testing the Buddha and the Buddha's mind, and how strong the mind of the Buddha was. Well, he was not the Buddha yet, exactly, to test how strong it was and how committed it was, how much faith in the practice it has when he was meditating. So Mara was testing him, and with all kinds of object of defilements, to test the different defilement of the mind. If you would have greed, if you would have passion, if you would have hatred, if you would have jealousy or aversion, So like that, he can, not only he could send ghosts to scare him, but also like warriors, like people who mean to kill him or torture him, and to see if the mind could stay equanimous with upeka, centered, not disturbed, with sati. So it's like that. It's the same. Forget about the ghosts like this. If you don't pay attention, if you don't send that energy, oh, I'm scared of ghosts, they don't come to your mind. It's all in the mind, right? They are not going to destroy you. And unfortunately, it can be dangerous just in the way that some people are so convinced in the mind that there is a ghost there and it's gonna really scare them, do something, that in the real situation they get scared and they panic, and then they do something dangerous for themselves and they hurt themselves or kill themselves, only because of a panic reaction from the mind, and seeing or imagining and the ghost and being scared, right? Again, panic is always your enemy. Panic is never your friend in any situation. This is exactly a mind losing completely the balance, of course, which means you will never do anything good or wise when you are in panic mode. So this is actually the little side thing concerning ghosts, which is a big thing in the Southeast Buddhist cultures, where so many people are afraid of ghosts or spirits like that. Just Let them be, let them do their own thing. And if you don't care, they're not going to affect you like that in your mind. If some people mean to see things sometimes, that's fine. But again, it's the way you approach it, you know. Some people are scared, and some people actually have passion about that. They like to look for ghosts, and they like to see them and spot them and befriend them. So fine, that way. If it's with a good intention, no problem. But don't be afraid of ghosts, and don't give that energy out, because yeah, it will come back to you, and you will become more and more afraid. So anyway, I was talking about the dark to darker side, and that's the people who have, yeah, not many paramis, of course, developed, and very dark mind, very dark intention, full moha loba dosa, and because of that, it can only become worse and worse, and yeah, and in infinite times, yeah, until it can become something else. And then there are the people actually, unfortunately, who go from bright to dark. So some people are kind of in between. Now we go back to the 59, 51, 49 or whatever percent, and some people have enough paramis in one way to have some awareness in this life, but the karma accumulated from so many, of course, billions of lives and existences in different realms is not so positive and becomes still stronger. And in one way, they can even have the chance, and unfortunately I've met some people like that. I mean, not unfortunately for me, but for them, because it's still the same. They encounter Dhamma, and they mean to know Dhamma. They actually know it quite well intellectually for some of them, and they seem to understand it well. But again, as I meant about the choice in the road, in this life, and they can practice for some time, but the practice is not so strong, or sometimes is misled. And when there is a strong opportunity or a strong event coming in this life that will trigger or wake up the very old, strong, dark karma, then that old, dark karma will show up and basically overwhelm them and take over the mind, and then they will again fall down into the dark side. Even though they were already doing good, I mean, they were kind of good, on the good side, but not super strong, but good. And but that's just the way it is. Yeah, they are exposed to Dhamma, they are given a chance, and they mean to know or understand the Dhamma, and they mean to practice, but the practice is weak, the commitment of the mind is not so strong. And when this life, there's always a test in life, basically, with the suffering, of course. When the life brings the right event, the right trigger for the old, dark, strong karma, then they just get overwhelmed, and then it starts to crumble down again, and either very quick or gradually, just the same, like as we say. So some people get exposed to Dhamma, they start to discover it and think it's good and it's for them. They start to meditate, just like even Buddhist culture in Southeast Asia. People say, okay, no, I want to meditate. Okay, I see it's good. Dhamma is good, and I want to meditate. They start to meditate, and as we say, you should meditate regularly, so that it will be beneficial for you. But then you meditate seriously for some time, different time period for different people, and then suddenly one day you find an excuse, again, typical classic from the ego excuse, to say, oh, okay, well, now today it was that, so okay, I won't meditate this time or today or whatever, but okay, next time. And then it happened one time, and then it's okay for a while or not, and then another time, a second time, come the excuse again, same excuse or different excuse to not meditate, and then again more and more excuses, and then gradually more and more excuses for missing the meditation, missing the practice, forget to practice, not to practice, and ultimately it just goes down. You think it's not, but gradually, drop by drop, as we say, just like the story with the Buddha and the two jars, and the jars of pebble, the jars of butter, and or which ones you want to feel, right? So, like that, it will go down and down and down, very quick, with some major big trigger, or gradually, slowly, but people go from bright to dark. And then there is the other side, of course, of the people who go from dark to bright. It's a bit in the similar manner in general, but with, of course, the good way, in the good way, in the right direction. So some people because the point is that we talk in this life, they had some karma that make them either be born in not a good context, let's say, or a hard context with some suffering, or they became darker for some reason, but actually they had accumulated enough good parami in the previous lives, doing enough good, and again in this life there will be a trigger that will make them start to think in the right direction and start to think positive, or like we say, the resilient people, they have some challenges in life, they have some events that are really hard, but they mean, because they know that I should keep a good mind, I should keep strong, I should keep positive, or find the positive aspect in that, or the positive lesson from that, and then it's changing into the good side and the bright side. So even like, and that applies actually in my situation, there's a point where you have dark thoughts, you can become depressed or suicidal, and like we say, and many people have example like this, and they know some people like that. You can or you have to reach rock bottom to be able to bounce better in the right direction. So in some situation you go down, dark, negative, but until a point where you actually surrender to life, surrender to Dhamma. Unconsciously, you don't know it's Dhamma, or like this, but you drop all the thing and you become very open. But then, thanks to the paramis also in your previous lives, you will open up into the right direction, and some things will happen. Karma will show up like that, and will show you or provide you with some opportunities or some encounters, synchronicities that will open your mind and brighten your path, and to make you start to go in that direction or open your eyes, wake up to, wow, yeah, there is something really good there, and I can do so much good, and it's good for myself and good for others. And then you become, of course, and then because you come from dark to that, then this is usually the right strong trigger that makes you go for the rest of your life that way, because you have experienced dark, negative, and then you see, wow, there's something good to be done, good for me, good for others. And you understand that the more you do of that, the better it is for you and others, the more beneficial. Then the motivation keeps, increasing, recycling itself this way. And then it becomes the momentum going on. So those are the 4 categories of, you can say, of people, but of mindset and of energy in general around, or because everything is impermanent, everything is in constant change and flow, then things evolve like that. But you can look at it that way. That's also one teaching, one way to explain certain things about life and the mind. So that also was about still the notion of darkness or brightness. And it's nice if people can realize that they have the choice and the option. And of course, the choice should be obvious, actually. But it's like that. I mean, that goes back to other notions. Maybe I won't go in that one yet because it starts to get long, but we are talking again about life and existence, right? So it's about duality, as we say, and then right there you have the yin and the yang, of course, for example. So always duality and the waves up and down of life, dark, bright, everything is waves because everything is energies. As far as existence go, every phenomenal, unless you become an arahant, and after you die, everything is, that's what Nibbana is. Nibbana is when everything becomes flat, no vibrations anymore, pure perfection, super strong, steady, like a rock energy. But then the yin and the yang, duality and black and white combination. But as you know, in the yin and the yang, you have the main black and the main white, but a bit of the opposite inside the other. So exactly like that relates to what I explained about the 4 categories. So again, that's one main teaching about Dhamma as everything in existence, every phenomenon, the laws of nature, the universe. As far as there is existence, it's all like between 2 poles, right? Everything is like electromagnetism, and it's always 2 poles, positive and negative. And every existence, every phenomena, every vibration has to do with that. Like this, or like this, or whichever way works for you to understand it. But like a battery, right? Goenka at some point explains that too, with different examples. People understand differently, so yeah, you have a battery that with the positive and negative, anode and cathode, and that's energy flowing like this and getting recycled. So everything is like that. But at the end, exactly, if you mean to be a real Dhamma person and you want to reach the highest, so you want to at least become Arya, to experience Nibbana once, or to become Arahat, and then experience when all this duality is over, the very, very stable, flat, pure, perfect, no energy that way, because there's no vibration anymore. It's perfection. then of course you know which direction you should take between darkness and brightness, that way, between, again, still being in the kilesa, or the four Brahma Vihara with sati, always with awareness, and of course upeka is the ultimate. It's a bit different, and upeka for everything, the centered, balanced mind that never goes one way or the other. And yeah, the very strong equanimity is perfection.